top of the world. Neymar had the world in his hands just 10 years ago. Performance is so good that it's taking a full decade and still nobody has been able to match his level of ability. Or has there? This is the hunt for the next Neymar Jr. After Barcelona's triumph from 2015 treble winning season, Neymar was highlighted as one of the most talented players in the world. And I say one because despite this, he was still overshadowed by his teammate, Lionel Messi. In a desire to become the main man, he moved to PSG, where after a series of brutal injuries mixed with off-the-pitch problems, Neymar hasn't been the same player since. But that doesn't stop players trying to match him. There are many, but I've managed to narrow it down to the 5 players who were closest to matching Neymar's ability. And we'll start with Joao Felix. Now, unlike Neymar, Joao Felix was brought up in Portugal. However, after breaking onto the scene for Benfica, scoring 20 goals at just 19 years of age, a lot of eyes were looking at him as he continued to ball out at such a young age. He showed composure and technical brilliance like nobody else around him. He was compared to the likes of Kaká, Charisma, and most notably Neymar Jr. He continued this upward path as he won the Golden Boy Award in 2019 and was labelled as football's best youngster. But when Atletico Madrid came knocking, everything changed. Atletico Madrid triggered his €126 million release clause to sign him in the summer of 2019, making him the 4th most expensive player in history at that time. Atletico viewed him as their replacement, the club legend Griezmann, who left a month prior for a similar record fee. He was thrown into the team as their star player, but instead of continuing to fire in goals, something weird happened. He stopped. The goals stopped coming in. Why this is was a mystery. However, it was quickly figured out that the manager, Diego Simeone, clashed with Felix. Felix wanted to play with more freedom, however Simeone played a more rigid and problematic style for Felix. His system was a lot more physically demanding for him, and as a result, he struggled greatly. Despite the flashes of brilliance, he lacked general consistency and began picking up injuries. It all became too much and he was loaned out to Chelsea in 2023, followed by a move to Barcelona the next season, where again, despite moments of brilliance, he failed to make a lasting impact at either clubs, and now plays in Al Nassr at 25 years of age. It still isn't crystal clear why he failed. Was it the price tag of 120 million? Was it Simeone that ruined him? Who knows? What we do know, however, is that he couldn't live up to the heights of Neymar. How about the next player, who despite having a disastrous start to his career, is now being considered as one of the best players in the world right now? That being Vinicius Jr. Now, Vinicius Jr had a similar story to Neymar. Grew up in Brazil and played football in the streets. He joined Flamengo at a young age, where he managed to work his way up, making his senior debut at just 16. He was seen as a promising player with lightning speed, flair, dribbling and more. And just 10 days after his senior debut, Real Madrid came in and signed him for a whopping €45 million, making him the most expensive teenager ever at the time. This was seen as a huge gamble for Real Madrid. Vinicius was good, but he was very raw and often inconsistent. However, due to laws, Vinicius couldn't actually join Real Madrid until he was 18. This gave him time in Brazil to build up his talent, and in 2018, he finally got his move to Spain and was labelled as the next Neymar. Unlike Joao Felix, Vinicius Jr was more about potential rather than instant superstar. Despite this, he had a poor start. Yes, he was quick, and yes, he was decent at dribbling. However, he was also ridiculed for missing open nets time and time again. His intelligence wasn't great. He would often pick the wrong pass, or just dribble into dead ends. It got to the point in 2020 where Benzema was caught saying, "Don't pass to him, he's playing against us," putting Vinicius at a brutal low point. By the end of the 1920 season, questions were being asked of whether he should be sold or not. However, when Carlo Ancelotti joined in 2021, things began to shift for Vinicius. He played a new role under Ancelotti, a more simple role: stay wide, attack 1v1s and stretch the defence. And well, it worked. Vinicius finally had his breakout season, scoring 22 goals and 20 assists in the 21-22 season, even scoring a winner to help Real Madrid lift the Champions League. Following Benzema's departure, Vinicius was considered as their star player and became the face of Brazilian football for a while, even coming agonisingly close to winning the Ballon d'Or, losing out to Rodri in 2023. Since then, he hasn't quite replicated this success, however he still has plenty of years ahead of him. Is he as good as Neymar? No. But does he have the potential to match Neymar's ability in the future? Only time will tell. Unlike Vinny, the next person on this list had a sharp rise to fame, followed by a big money move that sent his career the wrong way. And that player? Antony. Now your first reaction to that is probably, why is this idiot comparing Antony to Neymar? But hear me out. After being born and raised in the city of Sao Paulo in Brazil, Antony made a name for himself in Brazil at such a young age. His flair and talent stood out from the other players within that league. He caught the eyes of Ajax, who signed him at 20 years of age for around £13 million, a bargain considering what they were going to get from him later. He quickly became one of the most dangerous wingers in the league, scoring 23 goals within his first 2 seasons at Ajax. He even helped Ajax go unbeaten in the Champions League groups back in 2021. He had the Brazilian flair around him that couldn't be beaten, a flair that only a few other players ever had. But then came a problem. Ten Hag. Now Ten Hag left Ajax from Manchester United, and in his first season he wanted to bring Antony with him. He asked Manchester United to make a bid, and they made a respectable €45 million bid, around what he was worth at the time. But after Ajax said no, Ten Hag couldn't let this go, and by the end of August, that bid had risen from €45 million to €95 million. After Ajax gave in and accepted the bid, Antony became mainstream overnight, becoming one of the world's most expensive signings ever. It began well, but after inconsistent results, he began to crumble. It got to the point where he went a whole year without scoring a league goal. It was grim, and after being loaned out to Real Betis, where he found part of his flair again, he hasn't been back to United since. Now chances are, this is a stupid comparison between him and Neymar, and I'd say by now, there is no chance that he will ever reach the heights of Neymar. However, at one point in time, the question could have been asked, can Antony match Neymar? And the answer? Yeah, no. So after years and years, nobody could match Neymar. However, in 2024, a new player emerged that was being labelled as the new Neymar. After growing up in France, Doue built up his career and was known for his technical ability and general composure. Remind you of someone? After PSG parted ways with Neymar, they needed someone to fill his boots, and after a bit of trial and error, they stumbled across Doue and signed him in the summer of 2024. It was a huge hit. He played a key role in PSG's dominant treble-winning season, scoring and assisting 16 each. He delivered in the highest pressure moments, even scoring a brace in the Champions League final. So with the same question still being asked, he might have the talent to come up beside Neymar. I mean, we've seen that already. However, after his recent drop-off in form, can he recover and continue his dominance? Now these are all big names I've mentioned so far. Some haven't got so lucky, some may still have a chance, but there's one more player I haven't mentioned that I think has the biggest chance of going toe-to-toe with Neymar, and his name is Estevao. Now Estevao too was born in Brazil, and just like Neymar, he became a known talent as early as 8 years of age. He signed a deal with Nike aged 10, becoming the youngest ever Brazilian to sign with them. He worked his way up the ranks and eventually made his debut at just 16 years of age. It wasn't long before he got to show the world his talent at the Club World Cup. He helped them reach the quarter-finals of the competition before catching the eyes of Chelsea, who bought him for £34 million. Despite being expected to barely get game time considering Chelsea's massive squad, he shocked everyone, and by the second game of the season, he made his first Premier League start, proving that he is one of the most promising youngsters right now in football. So will Estevao or even any of these players match Neymar's legacy? What do you think? While you think about that, check out this video right here.